What if the biggest thing holding you back is not your circumstances, your past, or other people, but the habits, thoughts, and choices you make every day? Many people spend years searching for the secret to success, confidence, peace, and personal freedom. They look for better opportunities, better timing, and better conditions. But real change begins somewhere much closer. It begins within. The moment you learn how to manage your thoughts, control your actions, stay disciplined, and take responsibility for your life, everything starts to change. In this audiobook, you will discover how to build habits that strengthen your character, replace excuses with action, develop resilience during difficult times, and create the mental discipline needed to stay focused on your goals. You will learn why self-respect is earned through consistent effort, why responsibility gives you power, and why daily improvement matters more than occasional bursts of motivation. There will be moments in this journey that challenge the way you think about success, failure, comfort, and personal growth. Some lessons may feel simple, yet they have the power to completely change how you approach your life every day. If you have ever felt stuck, frustrated, distracted, or uncertain about your future, stay with this message until the end. The ideas you are about to hear can help you develop the strength, discipline, and mindset needed to move forward with confidence, master yourself, and you will discover something powerful. When your mind, habits, and actions work together, very little can stand in your way. Chapter 1. Build disciplined habits that strengthen your daily character. Discipline is not a harsh life. It is a clear life. It is the choice to do what matters even when the mood is low, and the body is tired, and the mind is trying to negotiate for comfort. A person who builds disciplined habits does not need constant motivation because the structure of their day carries them forward. That is where real strength begins, not in big speeches, not in promises made during emotional moments, not in waiting for the perfect day. It begins in the quiet decisions that are repeated until they become part of who you are. Your character is shaped more by what you do every day than by what you say once in a while. A single act of effort may feel small in the moment, but repeated effort changes the way you think, the way you carry yourself, and the way others experience your presence. When you keep your word to yourself, even in small things, your inner life becomes stronger. When you ignore your own commitments, even in small things, self-trust weakens. This is why disciplined habits matter so much. They are not only about productivity, they are about identity. They teach you who you are becoming. A disciplined life does not mean a perfect life. It does not mean rigid control over every hour or constant pressure. It means that you are serious about your future and honest about your actions today. You decide that your growth deserves attention. You decide that your standards are not based on your feelings alone. You decide that your values must show up in your behavior. That decision changes everything. The first lesson is simple. Start smaller than your pride wants. Many people fail because they try to change everything at once. They decide to wake up early, exercise for an hour, read 2 books, eat perfectly, stop every bad habit, and fix their entire life in 1 week. That kind of pressure usually ends in frustration. Discipline grows better through smaller promises kept consistently. A person who walks for 10 minutes every morning may accomplish more over time than someone who plans a dramatic transformation and quits after 3 days. A person who reads 5 pages a day will eventually know more than someone who waits for a free afternoon that never comes. A person who writes down one priority and finishes it before checking messages trains the mind to focus. Do not confuse small with weak. Small daily actions are often the most powerful because they are sustainable. They are easier to repeat. They create less resistance. They help you prove to yourself that change is possible. When you begin with something manageable, you remove the need for emotional drama. You simply act. That is the beginning of discipline. Not intensity, consistency. If you want stronger character, choose one habit that reflects the person you want to become. Maybe it is waking up at the same time every day. Maybe it is making your bed as soon as you rise. Maybe it is setting aside 15 minutes to plan your day. Maybe it is drinking water before anything else. Maybe it is reading instead of scrolling for the first half hour after waking. Choose something small enough that you can do it even on a bad day. Then do it until it becomes normal. A habit becomes powerful when it no longer requires a debate. The second lesson is to stop asking how you feel before doing what is right. Feelings are real, but they are not a dependable leader. They change too quickly. One morning you may feel eager and clear. Another morning you may feel restless and slow. A disciplined person does not treat every feeling as a command. They notice the feeling and still take the next right step. This is not about ignoring emotions. It is about refusing to be ruled by them. There will be days when you do not feel ready. There will be days when the mind says to delay. On those, your habits matter most. Your habits carry you when your mood cannot. A person with discipline does not need life to be easy in order to be effective. They learn to work with reality as it is. They understand that resistance is part of growth. They do not wait for comfort to begin. They begin, and then comfort often follows later. One of the strongest habits you can build is a morning routine that gives your mind direction. When you wake up and immediately scatter your attention across messages, news, entertainment, and random thoughts, the day begins to control you. But when you wake up and choose a simple sequence of actions that support your growth, you begin with purpose. You might wash your face, drink water, sit quietly for a few minutes, review your priorities, and begin your most important task before the world gets a chance to interrupt. That kind of beginning creates stability. It reminds you that your life is not random, it is directed. A disciplined morning does not need to be complicated. It needs to be consistent. Perhaps you need 10 minutes of silence to gather your thoughts. Perhaps you need a few minutes of stretching to wake up your body. Perhaps you need to write 3 tasks that must be completed. Perhaps you need to read a page of something wise so your mind starts the day with something solid. Build a rhythm that suits your life and repeat it often enough that it becomes part of your identity. Over time, that rhythm becomes a source of calm. Another important habit is finishing what you start. A great many people weaken their own character by starting with enthusiasm and stopping when interest fades. They leave books unfinished, tasks half-fun, and promises incomplete. Each unfinished thing leaves a mark on the mind. It teaches the brain that effort does not need to lead anywhere. That is a dangerous lesson. It creates a pattern of avoidance. But when you train yourself to finish small things, you build self-respect. Finish the email. Finish the workout. Finish the reading session. Finish the cleanup. Finish the project you have been avoiding. The act of finishing builds a powerful sense of inner order. It tells your mind that you are someone who closes loops and keeps moving. That habit strengthens your character because it eliminates the comfort of partial effort. Partial effort often feels acceptable in the moment, but it usually leaves a person feeling unfinished too. Discipline also grows from your environment. Your surroundings either support your better habits or constantly pull you away from them. A cluttered space can create a cluttered mind. A phone left beside you during work will invite distraction. A room full of noise will make quiet thinking harder. If you want disciplined habits, arrange your environment to help you. Put the book where you can see it. Keep the water nearby. Remove distractions from your work area. Lay out what you need the night before. Make the good choice easier and the bad choice less convenient. This is a practical kind of wisdom. It does not depend on willpower alone. Willpower matters, but it gets tired. Environment works all day. If you place healthy food where you can reach it and remove junk that tempts you, the decision becomes simpler. If you keep your work area clean and your tools ready, starting becomes easier. If you put your phone in another room during focused work, your attention becomes stronger. Discipline is not only about strength, it is also about design. You must also become honest with yourself about excuses. Excuses can sound reasonable, and that is what makes them so dangerous. They often arrive dressed as logic. You say you are too tired. You say the timing is off. You say tomorrow will be better. You say there is too much going on. Sometimes these things are partly true, but they can still become a cover for avoidance. A disciplined person learns to tell the difference between real limits and lazy thinking. Honesty does not insult you, it frees you. When you say, "I am avoiding this because it is uncomfortable," you gain power. When you say, "I keep delaying because I am afraid of doing it poorly," you gain clarity. When you admit, "I am giving less than I know I can," you create room for change. Discipline begins with truth. You cannot improve what you keep hiding from yourself. One useful practice is to ask a simple question at the end of each day. Did my actions today match the kind of person I want to be? That question is not meant to shame you. It is meant to guide you. Some days the answer will be yes. Some days it will be no. Either answer gives you information. If the answer is yes, you reinforce the habit. If the answer is no, you learn where attention is needed. Over time, this reflection builds self-awareness, and self-awareness is one of the foundations of discipline. The Stoic way of living teaches that you should focus on what is under your control. You cannot control every event. You cannot control other people's moods. You cannot control delays, criticism, or unexpected changes. But you can control your response. You can control whether you panic or stay steady. You can control whether you quit or continue. You can control whether you use difficulty as an excuse or as a training ground. This is where character is built. Not in ideal conditions, but in the way you respond when life becomes inconvenient. A disciplined person accepts discomfort as part of the price of growth. That does not mean they enjoy suffering or seek hardship for its own sake. It means they are not shocked when effort feels hard. They expect some resistance. They know that every good change asks for something in return. Better health asks for movement and better food. Better skill asks for practice. Better focus asks for less distraction. Better peace of mind asks for more responsibility. There is always a cost, and discipline pays it without constant complaint. One of the most important habits is learning to begin before you feel fully prepared. A lot of people wait for confidence before they act. But confidence often comes after action. You do not need to have perfect certainty before you start a task. You need enough clarity to take the first step. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates learning. Learning creates confidence. Waiting only keeps you in the same place. That is why disciplined people move. They do not wait for every doubt to disappear. They work while doubt is still present. This applies to many areas of life. If you want better health, begin with a walk. If you want better focus, begin with 20 minutes of uninterrupted work. If you want to read more, begin with a short session at the same time each day. If you want to improve your finances, begin by tracking what you spend and saving a little consistently. If you want to become calmer, begin by pausing before reacting. Big change is often the result of a first step repeated many times. Your character also grows when you keep promises to yourself in private. Many people are careful when others are watching, but less careful when no one knows. Real discipline is shown when the room is empty and no applause is coming. Do you still do the right thing? Do you still keep the habit? Do you still honor the standard you set? That is where self-respect deepens. You begin to trust yourself because you know your word means something. A powerful habit is to keep a simple record of your daily actions. You do not need a complicated system. A small notebook or a note on your phone is enough. Write the habit you are trying to build. Mark whether you did it. Keep the streak visible. This works because progress becomes real when it is seen. The mind often forgets slow growth, but a record shows the truth. It proves that repeated effort is happening. It also reveals where you are slipping. That awareness helps you adjust before the damage grows. You should also learn to protect your attention. Attention is one of the most valuable parts of your life. Where your attention goes, your energy goes. What you keep looking at shapes what you become. If you spend your day reacting to every alert and every random thought, your mind becomes scattered. But if you train your attention to stay on one useful thing at a time, your mind becomes stronger. This is a form of discipline many people ignore. They think discipline only means early waking or hard work. It also means guarding your focus, setting small blocks of time where you do one thing with full attention. Read without checking your phone. Work without switching tabs. Eat without constant media. Walk without reaching for distraction. Sit quietly without needing to fill the space. These simple acts train the mind to stay present. A present mind is more stable, more clear, and more able to make wise choices. A scattered mind is easily led into waste. When you miss a habit, do not turn the miss into a collapse. This is important. Some people do well for a few days and then, after one bad day, abandon the whole system. They say they failed, so there is no point continuing. That attitude destroys progress. Discipline is not perfection. It is recovery. It is the ability to return after error without self-pity. If you miss the routine, return the next day. If you miss twice, return again. Do not let one slip become a story about who you are. It is only a moment. Your identity is built by what you repeat over time, not by one-off day. This kind of recovery requires humility. You admit that you are human. You admit that weakness happens. You also admit that weakness does not have to become a way of life. That balance is healthy. It keeps you honest without making you harsh. It allows you to improve without becoming dramatic about the process. There is great strength in a person who can say, "I fell short yesterday and I will continue today." That person is not defeated. That person is developing character. Another habit worth building is thoughtful speech. The words you use matter because they reveal your mind and shape your behavior. If you constantly speak in a defeated way, you train your mind to think small. If you speak with care, honesty, and purpose, you strengthen your inner life. Discipline shows up in language too. Instead of saying, "I can never," say, "I need to improve." Instead of saying, "I am always like this," say, "I am working on this." Instead of complaining, name the problem and move toward a solution. Speech can either weaken or strengthen your character. You also need patience with the process. Many people want the reward of discipline without the repetition that creates it. They want the confidence, the health, the calm, the results, but they do not want the boring days. Yet the boring days are where the foundation is made. The quiet repetition of useful acts is not exciting, but it is powerful. It is in those ordinary days that you become someone reliable. That reliability is a form of greatness that does not need to announce itself. You may not notice the change right away. At first, discipline can feel like effort with little visible reward. But that is not because it is failing. It is because growth is often slow before it becomes obvious. The seed does not look impressive before it becomes a tree. The early stage of habit building may seem small, but it carries future strength. Keep going, keep practicing, keep showing up. The results often arrive after the character has already changed. Build habits that make you calmer. Build habits that make you stronger. Build habits that make you more honest. Build habits that make you less dependent on external pressure. Read something useful every day. Move your body every day. Reflect every day. Keep your space in order. Wake up and begin without too much delay. End the day by reviewing what mattered. These are not glamorous actions, but they create a life that feels steadier from the inside. The deepest purpose of discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. A disciplined person is not trapped by every urge or every mood. They are not forced to live by impulse. They can choose. They can pause. They can act with intention. That freedom makes life less chaotic. It gives room for real peace. And peace is not found by escaping responsibility. It is found by mastering it. When you begin to live this way, you will notice changes in how you carry yourself. You will feel less torn by random impulses. You will feel more grounded when pressure rises. You will trust yourself more. Others will feel that steadiness too. Your presence will become quieter, stronger, and more reliable. That happens because discipline changes the root, not just the surface. It reshapes your internal order. No one builds this overnight. The work is daily. Some days will feel smooth. Some days will feel heavy. Some days will challenge you to the core. Keep going anyway. The more you practice self-command, the less life will shake you. The more you keep your word to yourself, the stronger your character becomes. The more consistent your habits are, the more stable your future becomes. You do not need a perfect start. You need an honest one. Begin with one useful habit. Protect it. Repeat it. Refine it. Add another when ready. Stay patient when progress seems slow. Stay humble when progress begins to show. Stay steady when others around you drift. That kind of discipline will shape a life you can respect. A strong life is not built on impulse. It is built on repeated choices. It is built on keeping promises. It is built on doing the right thing when it is not easy. It is built on quiet effort that no one may applaud at first. But over time, that effort becomes character, and character becomes power. When your character is strong, your life is harder to break. When your habits are disciplined, your mind is harder to disturb. When your actions are consistent, your future becomes more dependable. That is the promise hidden inside daily discipline. Not a quick thrill, not a temporary burst of energy, something deeper, a self you can trust, a life you can stand behind, a spirit that no longer waits for permission to improve. Start there, continue there, stay there long enough, and you will see that the strongest force in your life was never outside you. It was the steady power of self-mastery, built one day at a time. Chapter 2. Replace excuses with consistent actions that create progress. Excuses feel comfortable because they protect you from discomfort in the short term, but they quietly take away your future. Every time you explain why something cannot be done today, you train your mind to delay the life you say you want. That delay becomes a habit. The habit becomes a pattern. The pattern becomes a character. Before long, you are not just making excuses. You are living inside them. That is why this chapter matters so much. A better life does not begin when all excuses disappear. It begins when action becomes stronger than the need to explain yourself. Most excuses sound reasonable at first. You may say you are too tired. You may say you do not have enough time. You may say the situation is not right. You may say you will start after things settle down. Some of these words may even contain a little truth. Life can be tiring. Time can be limited. Circumstances can be difficult. But the real question is not whether the situation is perfect. The real question is whether you are willing to move forward in a small and steady way, despite the situation. Progress usually belongs to people who stop waiting for ideal conditions and start working with what they have. Consistent action is powerful because it turns intention into reality. Many people have good thoughts, strong wishes, and sincere plans, but plans alone do not change a life. Action does. Repeated action does even more. One honest effort may not seem important in the moment, but repeated effort begins to shape your results. A person who studies a little every day will eventually know more than a person who only thinks about learning. A person who saves a small amount regularly will build more security than a person who keeps promising to start later. A person who keeps showing up will move farther than a person who keeps explaining why they could not begin. It helps to remember that progress is often quiet. It does not always come with excitement. It does not always come with praise. Sometimes progress looks like a small task finished before breakfast. Sometimes it looks like one message sent that opens a new door. Sometimes it looks like a short walk taken when you wanted to stay still. Sometimes it looks like one difficult conversation handled with honesty instead of delay. These small actions matter more than dramatic words. They prove that you are serious. If you want to replace excuses, begin by noticing the moments when they appear. Excuses often come before action and try to steal the first move. They say things like, "This is too hard right now," or "I will do it when I feel better," or "There is no point because I am already behind." When you hear those thoughts, do not argue with them for too long. Just recognize them for what they are. They are signals of resistance, not commands. You do not need to obey every thought that enters your mind. You can hear it and still move. One of the most useful habits you can build is the habit of starting before you feel like it. This does not mean forcing yourself into reckless action. It means refusing to give your mood the final decision. A person who waits to feel ready often waits far too long. Readiness is often built through motion. The first few minutes are usually the hardest. After that, the mind begins to cooperate. The body begins to warm up. The resistance weakens. What felt heavy at the start becomes possible once you are moving. That is why beginning matters so much. You do not need a perfect plan to begin. You need a clear next step. If the task is large, break it down. If the goal is unclear, write one sentence about what you want. If the habit feels difficult, lower the entry point so it is impossible to refuse. For example, if you want to exercise, begin with 10 minutes. If you want to write, begin with 1 paragraph. If you want to clean your room, begin with 1 corner. If you want to improve your finances, begin by checking your spending. Small beginnings are not signs of weakness, they are signs of wisdom. They make consistency possible. Consistency matters because it removes dependence on emotion. Emotion can help, but it cannot be trusted to carry your life. Some days you will feel strong. Some days you will feel uncertain. Some days you will want to work. Some days you will want to hide. Consistent action teaches you to continue through changing states of mind. It creates a stable rhythm. It gives your life a dependable shape. That shape becomes strength. People who are consistent often appear calm because they are no longer controlled by every fluctuation in feeling. They have built something bigger than the moment. A person who relies on excuses is always waiting for the right conditions. A person who relies on action creates the right conditions over time. That difference changes everything. The first person stays stuck in planning and explaining. The second person slowly builds momentum. Momentum is important because it makes the next action easier. One completed task makes the next task less intimidating. One day of effort makes tomorrow easier to enter. 1 week of repetition starts to build trust. That trust is not only about the work. It is about believing that you will not abandon yourself at the first sign of resistance. If you have a history of quitting, do not attack yourself for it. Learn from it. Ask a simple question. What excuse shows up the most? Maybe it is fatigue. Maybe it is fear of failure. Maybe it is fear of looking unprepared. Maybe it is discouragement when results are slow. Identify the pattern honestly. Then respond with a practical solution. If fatigue is the issue, improve your sleep and reduce overload where possible. If fear is the issue, begin with smaller exposure. If discouragement is the issue, track effort rather than only results. You cannot defeat a pattern by pretending it is not there. You defeat it by seeing it clearly and building a better response. It is also wise to stop speaking in a way that strengthens excuses. Words matter. When you say, "I always fail," you make the future feel closed. When you say, "I never have time," you erase your responsibility to organize your time. When you say, "That is just how I am," you freeze your identity in place. These statements may feel honest, but they are often too final. A more useful way to speak is, "I have not improved this yet," or "I need a better plan," or "I can do a little more today." That language keeps the door open. It supports change instead of ending it. Consistency also requires a deeper kind of honesty. You must ask whether your actions match your priorities. Many people say family matters most, but they never make time to be present. Many say health matters most, but they keep delaying basic care. Many say growth matters most, but they spend their best energy on distractions. Your life tells the truth long before your words do. This is why daily action is such a powerful mirror. It shows what you actually value. The good news is that the same habit that builds excuses can be replaced by a habit that builds progress. It happens one decision at a time. When you notice the urge to delay, choose a smaller action. When you feel resistance, do the first step only. When you want to give yourself a way out, stay for 5 more minutes. When you want to postpone a responsibility, handle one part of it now. These choices seem small, but they shape your relationship with effort. Over time, they make you more dependable in your own eyes. A dependable person is not someone who never struggles. It is someone who keeps moving even when struggle appears. That person does not wait for perfect clarity. They create clarity through repetition. They do not wait for confidence to arrive. They earn confidence by proving they can act. They do not wait for life to become easy. They become steadier through the hard parts. That is how progress becomes real. There will be days when you do not want to do the thing that helps you most. On those days, remember that action often comes before motivation. The mind is not always the best starting point. Sometimes you act first and your mind catches up later. This is especially true for long-term growth. A person who only works when inspired will remain inconsistent. A person who works because it matters will keep building even when the feeling is missing. That is a more reliable life. Take a close look at the excuses that keep repeating in your life. Then remove their power by acting in the opposite direction, even in a small way. If the excuse says there is no time, use 10 minutes. If it says you are too far behind, start where you are. If it says the result will not be perfect, begin anyway. If it says no one will notice, remember that your character notices. You are not only building results, you are building a self you can trust. Every day gives you a choice between explanation and progress. Explanation can make you feel understood for a moment. Progress gives you a better future. Explanation can keep you comfortable. Progress may challenge you, but it also changes you. The life you want will not come from a long list of reasons. It will come from repeated effort that no longer waits for permission. So move. Move when the mood is low. Move when the task feels plain. Move when the praise is absent. Move when the progress is slow. Move because your future deserves more than your excuses. Move because your habits are writing your character. Move because the smallest action taken today can create a better tomorrow. When you keep choosing action over excuse, your life begins to change in a steady and lasting way. That is where real progress lives. Chapter 3. Control your thoughts before they control your behavior. Your life does not move first through your hands. It moves first through your mind. Every action begins as a thought, and every repeated thought begins to shape what feels normal to you. That is why the mind must be watched with care. If you do not guide your thoughts, they will guide your behavior. If you do not challenge the thoughts that weaken you, they will quietly become habits. And once a thought becomes a habit, it starts to direct your words, your choices, your posture, and your future. A strong person is not someone who never has difficult thoughts. A strong person is someone who notices them before they take over. There will always be moments fear appears, when doubt speaks, when anger rises, when laziness asks for comfort, and when old memories try to shape the day. This is part of being human, but being human does not mean being helpless. You can observe a thought without obeying it. You can feel tension without surrendering to it. You can be disturbed for a moment without letting that disturbance control your conduct. The mind often tries to rush ahead and create stories. It says the task is too hard before you begin. It says people are judging you when no one is even focused on you. It says failure is certain before you have taken the first real step. It says you are behind, not ready, too late, not enough, or already defeated. These thoughts may sound familiar because nearly every person hears them at times. The difference is that some people believe every one of them. Others learn to question them. That difference changes everything. Control begins with awareness. You cannot guide what you refuse to notice. Pay attention to the thoughts that repeat the most. Notice which thoughts arrive when you are under pressure. Notice which thoughts make you scroll, delay, overeat, withdraw, snap at others, or quit too early. When you identify the pattern, you begin to separate yourself from it. The thought is not the full truth. It is only a passing event in the mind. You are not required to turn every passing event into a decision. One of the most useful practices is to pause before reacting. That pause may be short, but it is powerful. A single breath can create enough space for wisdom to enter. Without that space, thoughts become actions too quickly. With that space, you regain choice. When something upsets you, pause. When you feel tempted to give up, pause. When worry grows loud, pause. In that pause, ask what is actually true, ask what is useful, Ask what action would help rather than harm. This habit strengthens the mind in a quiet but serious way. Thoughts that are left alone tend to grow stronger. That is why repeated negative thinking can become so dangerous. A small worry becomes a larger fear. A moment of frustration becomes a habit of irritation. A single failure becomes a story of personal weakness. If you are not careful, the mind will turn one bad moment into a general belief about your whole life. That is not truth. That is unchecked interpretation. It can be corrected. The correction starts when you replace useless thinking with disciplined thinking. This does not mean pretending everything is fine. It means seeing reality clearly and refusing to exaggerate the damage. If a plan failed, that does not mean you are incapable. If a relationship changed, that does not mean all connection is gone. If one day was wasted, that does not mean the week is lost. A disciplined mind speaks in facts, not in dramatic conclusions. It asks, what happened? What can be learned? What is the next right move? You can train your thoughts the same way you train your body, not by force alone, but by repetition. What you read matters. What you listen to matters. What you replay in your mind matters. If you fill your mind with noise, fear, envy, gossip, and constant outrage, your thoughts will become heavy and reactive. If you feed your mind with truth, wise words, quiet reflection, and useful ideas, your thoughts become steadier. The mind is not changed by one moment. It is shaped by what you allow in again. Be careful with the first thought that appears in a difficult moment. The first thought is often emotional, not wise. It may say, I cannot handle this. It may say, I need to escape. It may say, this always happens to me. Do not trust the first wave too quickly. Let it pass through the mind without granting it authority. Then answer it with something firmer. I can handle one step. I do not need to solve everything right now. This moment is difficult, but it is not the end of me. These are the kinds of thoughts that protect behavior. Your inner speech shapes your outer life more than most people realize. A person who speaks to themselves with harsh defeat will often act as if defeat is expected. A person who speaks with patience and clarity will usually behave with more steadiness. Speak to yourself like someone worth helping, not like someone already lost. That does not mean flattering yourself. It means telling the truth in a way that still allows growth. You can admit weakness without making weakness your identity. When fear rises, do not ask how to eliminate it completely. Ask how to act wisely while fear is present. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is right action under pressure. If you wait until the mind feels perfectly calm, you may wait far too long. Instead, choose the smallest useful step. Make the call, start the work, open the book, apologize, clean the space, write the first line, move your body. The first step often matters more than the emotional state behind it. It is wise to stop feeding every thought with endless attention. Some thoughts deserve a response. Others only deserve notice and release. If a useless thought appears, do not hold it, polish it, and examine it from every angle. That habit drains energy. Let it pass. Return your attention to what you can actually do. The mind becomes healthier when it learns that every thought is not worth a meeting. A disciplined thinker asks a better question in every situation. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this asking of me? Instead of asking, what if I fail? Ask, what if I grow through this? Instead of asking, how do I avoid discomfort? Ask, what is the valuable lesson here? These questions do not erase pain, but they change direction. They move the mind from helplessness toward responsibility. Responsibility is one of the greatest forms of mental strength. When you take responsibility for your thinking, you stop blaming every feeling, every memory, and every outside event for your behavior. You begin to see that while you cannot control everything that enters the mind, you can choose what you keep, what you challenge, and what you act on. That is a powerful shift. It gives you back your center. There will be moments when your mind feels crowded. In those moments, simplify. Sit still for a few minutes. Put the phone away. Breathe in a steady way. Name the thought that is bothering you. Write it down if needed. Then ask whether it is useful, true, or exaggerated. Often, just seeing the thought clearly reduces its power. The mind loses some of its control when it is brought into the light. A calm mind is not built by accident. It is built by repeated choices. You choose not to react too quickly. You choose not to accept every fear as a fact. You choose not to build your day around temporary moods. You choose to return to what is real and useful. Over time, these choices create mental strength. That strength changes behavior. A clearer mind speaks better. It works better. It rests better. It responds better under pressure. Protect your attention as if your life depends on it, because in many ways it does. Attention is the doorway through which thought becomes habit. What you keep focusing on grows louder in your inner world. If you focus on problems all day, your behavior becomes tense and narrow. If you focus on what can be done, your behavior becomes steadier and more effective. Your attention is not a small matter. It is one of the main places where your future is formed. You do not need to win every battle in a single day. You only need to become more aware, more honest, and more intentional with each day that passes. Some thoughts will still try to pull you down. That is normal. What matters is that you no longer give them full authority. You learn to notice them. You learn to question them. You learn to replace them with clearer thinking. You learn to act from wisdom instead of impulse. That is how self-mastery grows. Not by wishing for a different mind, but by training the one you have. Not by waiting for perfect mental conditions, but by practicing control in ordinary moments. Not by pretending there are no inner battles, but by meeting them with patience and discipline. When you control your thoughts before they control your behavior, you stop living like a passenger in your own life. You become the one who chooses the direction, and once that begins, everything else becomes easier to build. Chapter 4. Practice self-respect through honest effort and follow-through. Self-respect begins long before anyone else notices your effort. It begins in the quiet places where no applause is coming, and no one is checking whether you kept your word. It begins when you say you will do something and then do it. It begins when your actions match your standards, even if the task is small and the reward is far away. A person who respects themselves does not need a dramatic life to prove value. They prove it through honest effort and steady follow-through. Many people think self-respect comes from confidence first. In reality, confidence often grows after you prove to yourself that you can be trusted. When you keep promises to yourself, your mind begins to feel safer. You stop living in a way that creates inner doubt. You stop making yourself feel small by repeatedly delaying what you know matters. Honest effort is powerful because it removes self-deception. It says plainly, I will do what I can with what I have, and I will not pretend that avoidance is progress. You do not need to be perfect to respect yourself. You need to be honest. That honesty includes admitting when something is difficult. It includes recognizing when you are distracted or tired or afraid. It includes refusing to hide behind excuses that sound smart but keep you stuck. A person who respects themselves can say, I am not at my best today, but I will still move forward. That sentence holds both truth and responsibility. It is the kind of thinking that builds strength. Follow-through matters because unfinished intentions slowly weaken the way you see yourself. Every time you begin something and leave it hanging, you teach your mind that your word is flexible. Over time, that can create internal confusion. You start to question whether your own plans mean anything. But when you finish what you start, even in small ways, you create order in your inner life. That order becomes a foundation for peace. It is easier to respect yourself when you know you are a person who completes what you begin. Honest effort does not always look exciting. Sometimes it looks like showing up to work on a task when your energy is low. Sometimes it looks like keeping your schedule even when nobody would know if you changed it. Sometimes it looks like handling one uncomfortable responsibility without delay. Sometimes it looks like telling the truth when a lie would be easier. These moments may seem ordinary, but they shape your character more than dramatic achievements ever will. A lack of follow-through usually does not begin with a major failure. It begins with small allowances. You tell yourself that one delay does not matter. You say you will do it later. You say you are too busy today. You say the task is not urgent. In time, those small delays can become a pattern. The pattern becomes familiar. The familiar becomes normal. Then you start wondering why your life feels uneven. The answer is often hidden in the small things you did not finish. Self-respect grows when you start to treat your commitments seriously. This means that your plans should not be casual decorations in your mind. If you say you will wake up at a certain time, then wake up. If you say you will make the call, then make it. If you say you will prepare the work, then prepare it. If you say you will apologize, then apologize. When your behavior becomes reliable, your inner voice becomes calmer. You no longer have to live with the stress of broken promises sitting in the background of your mind. There is also a deep respect that comes from doing hard things without needing anyone to force you. People who avoid difficulty often become dependent on external pressure. They work only when watched. They improve only when pushed. But a self-respecting person learns to act from principle. They do the right thing because it is right. They keep going because they know their future depends on it. They do not wait for a perfect feeling. They rely on commitment. A useful habit is to keep your word in private first. Before you expect others to trust you, build trust within yourself. Say you will read for 15 minutes and do it. Say you will clean one area and finish it. Say you will go for the walk and take it seriously. Say you will stop a harmful habit for one day and complete the day with discipline. These private promises matter. They train your mind to understand that your word carries weight. That understanding changes how you carry yourself in every area of life. It is easy to speak about standards. It is harder to live them when no one is watching. That is why honest effort is such a strong measure of character. It does not depend on public praise. It does not depend on image. It depends on whether your real effort matches your stated values. If you say health matters, then your daily choices should reflect that. If you say growth matters, then learning should be part of your routine. If you say peace matters, then your actions should reduce chaos where possible. Self-respect is not built by image. It is built by alignment. Some people mistake self-respect for pride. They think it means never admitting weakness or never starting small. That is not true. Real self-respect is humble. It is willing to begin where you are. It is willing to learn. It is willing to improve without making excuses for everything. It does not demand perfection because it understands that growth is a process. At the same time, it refuses to accept careless living as normal. It holds a steady line between compassion and responsibility. If you want to strengthen this part of your life, begin by choosing one commitment you can keep every day. Keep it simple enough that failure is unlikely if you are honest. Then protect it. Do not let your mood decide whether it matters. Do not let your comfort decide whether it happens. A small promise kept daily is more powerful than a large promise made once. Over time, it teaches your mind that stability is possible. That stability builds self-respect in a real and lasting way. Another key part of self-respect is finishing with dignity, even when the result is not perfect. Not every effort will lead to immediate success. Some tasks will end in disappointment. Some plans will need adjustment. Some days will be messy. But you can still respect yourself by showing up with seriousness. You can still respect yourself by learning from the outcome instead of hiding from it. You can still respect yourself by saying, "I gave real effort, and I will improve from here." That is mature thinking. When you are tempted to lower your standards, ask what that choice will teach you. Will it make you stronger or weaker? Will it bring more peace or more regret? Will it help you trust yourself or quietly damage that trust? These are important questions because small choices become habits, and habits become the shape of your life. Self-respect is guarded in small moments. It is protected when you choose the better action, even if it takes more effort. It also helps to separate your worth from your momentary performance. You are not less valuable because you had a bad hour or a disappointing day. But you are responsible for what you do next. Self-respect is not about harsh self-judgment. It is about refusing to abandon your own standards. You can acknowledge a mistake without collapsing into shame. You can correct course without turning failure into identity. That balance keeps you grounded. A self-respecting person does not constantly chase approval. They understand that approval can be inconsistent and often shallow. They focus instead on doing what is correct and worthwhile. They care about results, but they care even more about integrity. They know that a clean conscience has value. They know that honest work done with care will strengthen them even before the final reward arrives. If you have been living in a way that feels scattered or unreliable, then today is a good day to begin again. Begin by choosing one area where your effort has been weak. Make it smaller and clearer. Decide what honest effort looks like there. Decide how follow-through will happen, then act. Do not wait for a special moment. Start with the next decision in front of you. The life of self-respect is built from these decisions. You do not have to announce your change to the world. You only have to begin honoring your own word. You only have to stop making excuses for what you already know. You only have to practice steady effort until it becomes familiar. That is how self-respect grows. It grows when you live in a way that you can stand behind. It grows when your actions are sincere. It grows when your promises become real. And once that starts happening, your whole life begins to carry a different kind of strength. Chapter 5. Develop resilience by facing challenges with steady courage. Challenges are not interruptions to life. They are part of life. Every person who has ever achieved something meaningful has faced moments that tested their patience, confidence, strength, and determination. No one is given a path that is completely free from difficulty. The difference is not found in who experiences challenges. The difference is found in how people respond when challenges arrive. Resilience is the ability to keep moving forward when life becomes uncomfortable. It is the decision to remain steady when circumstances are uncertain. It is the strength to continue working toward your goals even when progress feels slow. Resilience does not mean you never feel pain. It does not mean you never feel disappointed. It does not mean you never experience fear or frustration. It means those feelings do not have the final say over your actions. Many people believe courage means feeling fearless. Real courage is very different. Courage is choosing the right action while fear is present. Courage is speaking honestly when silence would be easier. Courage is trying again after a setback. Courage is standing up after disappointment and refusing to allow one difficult chapter to define the entire story of your life. Life has a way of testing people when they least expect it. A plan falls apart. A trusted person leaves. A financial problem appears. A health concern creates uncertainty. A goal takes much longer than expected. During these moments, the mind often asks difficult questions. Why is this happening? Why now? Why me? These questions are understandable, but they rarely provide useful answers. A resilient person learns to ask a different question. They ask, what can I do next? That question shifts attention away from helplessness and toward action. It directs energy toward solutions rather than endless frustration. One of the greatest mistakes people make during hard times is assuming that difficulty means they are moving in the wrong direction. That is not always true. Sometimes difficulty is simply part of the journey. Learning a new skill is difficult. Building a business is difficult. Improving relationships is difficult. Changing habits is difficult. Becoming stronger mentally is difficult. Growth often requires effort because it demands that you become more than you were before. Think about the strongest people you know. They are rarely strong because life was easy for them. They are strong because they faced situations that demanded more from them. They learned lessons through experience. They discovered abilities they did not know they possessed. They developed patience because impatience could not solve the problem. They developed wisdom because emotions alone could not guide them through. Every challenge contains an opportunity to discover something about yourself. A difficult season reveals your habits. It reveals your mindset. It reveals how you respond under pressure. It shows whether you depend entirely on comfort or whether you can remain focused when comfort disappears. This is why resilience is not built during peaceful moments alone. It is developed through practice when circumstances become demanding. Every challenge presents a choice. You can become bitter or better. You can retreat or adapt. You can complain endlessly or begin searching for a path forward. Steady courage is not dramatic. It often looks ordinary from the outside. It is waking up and handling responsibilities even when your emotions are heavy. It is continuing to learn after making mistakes. It is treating people with respect when life has given you reason to become angry. It is maintaining your values when abandoning them would be easier. Many people underestimate the power of remaining calm during difficult situations. When pressure rises, the mind often wants immediate answers. It wants certainty. It wants guarantees. But life rarely provides those things on demand. A resilient person understands this. Instead of panicking, they focus on the next step. They understand that clarity often appears through movement, not through endless worry. Imagine standing at the base of a long staircase. Looking at the entire staircase at once might feel overwhelming. Looking only at the next step feels manageable. Challenges work the same way. When you focus on every possible problem at the same time, stress grows larger. When you focus on the immediate action available to you, progress becomes possible. One reason people struggle during difficult periods is because they spend too much time resisting reality. They wish circumstances were different. They replay the past repeatedly. They focus on what should have happened instead of dealing with what actually happened. Acceptance is a powerful form of strength. Acceptance does not mean approval. It does not mean giving up. It means recognizing reality clearly. Once you accept reality, you can work with it. Until then, you remain trapped fighting something that has already occurred. Resilient people are realistic. They acknowledge setbacks without exaggerating them. They recognize losses without allowing those losses to destroy their identity. They understand that one event does not determine the rest of their future. Another important part of resilience is emotional control. Emotions are valuable signals, but they are poor leaders during difficult situations. Fear can make problems appear larger than they are. Anger can push people toward decisions they later regret. Discouragement can create the illusion that effort is pointless. This is why developing emotional discipline matters so much. When challenges arise, pause before reacting. Give yourself time to think clearly. A calm response often solves problems that emotional reactions make worse. There will be moments when you feel exhausted by the weight of your responsibilities. During those moments, remember that resilience does not require perfection. It requires persistence. You do not have to solve everything today. You only need to keep moving in the right direction. Sometimes progress during difficult seasons is measured differently. It may not be about achieving major victories. It may simply be about maintaining your standards. It may be about continuing healthy habits. It may be about keeping your commitments. It may be about refusing to quit. The ability to endure difficult periods often separates successful people from unsuccessful people. Many individuals possess talent. Many possess intelligence. Many possess potential. Yet potential alone accomplishes very little without endurance. Great achievements often belong to those who remain committed long after excitement disappears. Patience becomes especially important during adversity. Modern life encourages people to expect immediate results. Real growth rarely follows that schedule. Recovery takes time. Learning takes time. Building trust takes time. Developing skill takes time. Strengthening character takes time. A resilient person understands that meaningful progress cannot always be rushed. They stay committed to the process even when visible results are delayed. They trust that consistent effort eventually produces change. One of the most valuable habits during difficult times is maintaining perspective. A problem may feel enormous today, but many challenges appear smaller when viewed from a greater distance. Think about difficulties you faced years ago. Some of them may have felt overwhelming at the time, yet you survived them. You adapted. You learned. You continued. This reminder is powerful because it proves something important. You are stronger than many of the challenges you have already overcome. The evidence exists in your own life. Every obstacle you survived developed some degree of wisdom, experience, or strength. Resilience also grows through gratitude. This may seem surprising because gratitude is often associated with positive circumstances. Yet gratitude becomes even more valuable during difficult seasons. It reminds you that hardship is not the only thing present in your life. Even during challenging periods, there are usually reasons to remain grateful. There may be supportive people around you. There may be opportunities still available. There may be lessons being learned. There may be strengths being developed. Gratitude does not ignore problems. It prevents problems from becoming the only thing you see. Strong people also understand the importance of adapting. Sometimes a strategy needs adjustment. Sometimes a goal requires a different approach. Sometimes a plan must evolve because circumstances have changed. Adaptability is not weakness, it is wisdom. A tree that refuses to bend during a storm is more likely to break. A person who refuses to adjust when necessary may create unnecessary suffering. Resilience includes the ability to remain committed to your values while remaining flexible in your methods. Another truth about resilience is that growth often happens quietly. You may not notice changes immediately. You may not feel stronger every day. Yet each challenge handled with maturity adds something valuable to your character. Each setback survived increases your confidence. Each difficult decision made responsibly strengthens your self-respect. Over time, these experiences create a different kind of confidence. It is not loud confidence. It is not based on appearances. It is based on evidence. It comes from knowing that you can face uncertainty and continue moving forward. The world respects people who remain steady under pressure because steadiness is rare. Many individuals collapse emotionally at the first sign of difficulty. Many abandon goals when progress becomes slow. Many lose hope when outcomes become uncertain. You do not have to become one of those people. You can choose a different path. You can decide that challenges will develop you rather than defeat you. You can decide that setbacks will educate you rather than define you. You can decide that temporary difficulties will not determine your permanent future. Every challenge you face contains a hidden opportunity to strengthen your character. Every obstacle provides a chance to practice patience. Every setback creates an opportunity to develop wisdom. Every disappointment allows you to build greater emotional strength. Life will continue presenting difficult moments. That reality cannot be avoided. What can be changed is the person you become while facing them. Meet challenges with a calm mind. Meet uncertainty with thoughtful action. Meet setbacks with determination. Meet fear with courage. Meet obstacles with persistence. Do not ask for a life without difficulties. Ask for the strength to handle difficulties well. The person who develops resilience gains something extremely valuable. They gain the ability to remain steady regardless of circumstances. They gain confidence that does not disappear when conditions change. They gain inner strength that cannot be easily shaken by temporary setbacks. When you learn to face challenges with steady courage, you stop fearing every obstacle that appears in your path. You begin to understand that difficulty is not always your enemy. Sometimes it is your teacher. Sometimes it is your training ground. Sometimes it is the very thing preparing you for the life you are working so hard to build. And when that understanding takes root deeply within you, challenges no longer seem like walls blocking your future. They become opportunities to prove to yourself just how strong you are becoming. Chapter 6. Strengthen your mind through learning, reflection, and discipline. A strong mind is not built by accident. It is built through learning, reflection, and discipline repeated over time until they become part of how you live. Many people want a sharper mind, but they do not give their mind enough care. They fill their days with noise and rush through their thoughts without ever slowing down to understand what they are becoming. A mind becomes stronger when it is fed well, examined honestly, and trained with steady habits. Learning is one of the first ways the mind grows. Every time you read something useful, you expose your thinking to a new idea. Every time you listen carefully to someone wise, you expand your understanding. Every time you study a skill with patience, you become more capable than you were before. A learning mind stays alive. It remains open. It does not believe that the first idea is the best idea, or that old habits must remain unchanged forever. It understands that there is always more to know and more to improve. But learning alone is not enough. A person can read many things and still remain unchanged if they never reflect on what they have taken in. Reflection is where knowledge becomes personal. Reflection asks you to slow down and consider what truly matters. What did you learn today? What thought keeps returning? What habit is helping you? What habit is hurting you? What decision needs to be made with more care? These are simple questions, but they are powerful because they turn experience into wisdom. Without reflection, life can become a long list of repeated mistakes. A person may keep facing the same problems and never understand why. They may gather information but never turn it into insight. Reflection helps you step back from the rush of daily life and see patterns more clearly. It teaches you to notice where your energy goes, where your attention gets lost, and where your choices are quietly shaping your future. A reflective mind does not live on the surface. It seeks the deeper lesson. Discipline is what gives learning and reflection real power. A person may know many good ideas and still live without direction if they do not practice discipline. Discipline makes the good idea useful. It turns intention into action. It turns insight into routine. It turns a thoughtful moment into a better life. If you want to strengthen your mind, discipline must become part of your daily structure. That means setting time aside for reading. It means creating quiet space for thought. It means choosing not to let distractions steal every free moment. It means doing what your growth requires even when your feelings would rather drift. Many minds are weakened not by lack of talent, but by lack of order. Too much noise makes thought unclear. Too much distraction makes focus weak. Too much comfort makes effort feel unnecessary. A disciplined mind is different. It knows how to return to the task. It knows how to resist needless interruption. It knows how to stay with one idea long enough to understand it. That kind of mind becomes more useful, more stable, and more peaceful. If you want to build this strength, begin with your inputs. What enters your mind matters. The books you read matter. The conversations you keep returning to matter. The voices you listen to matter. The thoughts you entertain when you are alone matter. A mind cannot be healthy if it is fed carelessly. Just as the body responds to what it consumes, the mind responds to what it receives. Choose wisely, feed it with truth, with useful ideas, with honest questions, and with content that helps you grow rather than scatter. Then practice thoughtful silence. Many people are uncomfortable when the world becomes quiet, because silence forces them to hear themselves. Yet that silence can be one of the greatest tools for growth. In quiet moments you can notice what you have been avoiding. You can hear the weight of a decision before it becomes a problem. You can separate useful thoughts from useless ones. You can ask yourself whether you are moving in the direction you claim to value. Silence gives the mind room to breathe. Revanche also requires honesty. It is easy to tell yourself comforting stories. It is harder to ask whether those stories are true. Honest reflection does not attack you, it simply removes the fog. It allows you to see your habits without exaggeration and without denial. Maybe you are more distracted than you admit. Maybe you are more capable than you realize. Maybe you are spending energy on things that do not help your future. Maybe you have been delaying important decisions because you do not want to face discomfort. Clear thinking starts when you become willing to see yourself as you are. There is real strength in asking better questions. Instead of asking why your life is not moving fast enough, ask what is slowing it down. Instead of asking how to avoid effort, ask how to build a better routine. Instead of asking who is at fault, ask what you can improve. The mind grows through honest questions because honest questions lead to useful answers. A careless question often leads to confusion. A disciplined question leads to direction. One of the best habits for mental strength is to review your day before it ends. This does not need to take long. A few minutes are enough. Ask what went well. Ask what drained you. Ask where you acted wisely. Ask where you acted too quickly. Ask what needs attention tomorrow. This simple reflection creates self-awareness. It helps you learn from the day instead of just surviving it. Days that are reviewed become lessons. Days that are ignored often repeat the same mistakes. Your mind also grows stronger when you keep promises to it. If you say you will read for 20 minutes, then read for 20 minutes. If you say you will study one subject, then study it with care. If you say you will avoid distractions during a certain hour, then protect that hour. Every kept promise builds trust inside you. Every broken promise weakens it. This is why discipline matters so much. It gives your mind structure and your character reliability. A strong mind does not fear correction. It welcomes it. It understands that being corrected is not the same as being diminished. Correction is part of growth. If something is false, let it be corrected. If a method is poor, let it be improved. If a habit is weak, let it be strengthened. A disciplined person does not cling to mistakes because pride is expensive. It keeps you attached to what no longer helps. Wisdom is more useful than pride. Learning should also become active, not passive. Do not only collect information, apply something from what you learn. Write the idea in your own words. Explain it to someone else. Use it in a decision. Test it in real life. The mind becomes stronger when knowledge is used. Otherwise, it remains decoration. Real strength appears when thought changes behavior. If your mind often feels tired, give it less chaos and more purpose. Reduce the noise where you can. Focus on one useful thing at a time. Finish what you start. Rest properly. Stay away from constant mental clutter. The mind was not made to carry endless tension without relief. A healthy mind needs rhythm. It needs challenge and rest. It needs effort and recovery. It needs truth and quiet. You do not become mentally strong by forcing yourself to know everything. You become strong by learning carefully, reflecting honestly, and living with discipline. That combination shapes a mind that is clear under pressure and steady in ordinary life. It makes you harder to distract and harder to discourage. It helps you stay focused when others drift. It helps you think before reacting. It helps you choose with wisdom instead of impulse. A stronger mind will not solve every problem instantly, but it will help you face problems better. It will make you less likely to panic and more likely to respond with reason. It will help you notice what matters and ignore what does not. It will give you the patience to keep improving when results are slow. That kind of mind becomes a real asset in every area of life. So keep learning, keep reflecting, keep practicing discipline even when the day feels ordinary. Let your mind be shaped by truth instead of noise. Let your thoughts be guided by purpose instead of confusion. Let your habits support the future you want. In time, your mind will become one of your greatest strengths, and that strength will quietly change everything else around you. Chapter 7. Choose responsibility and stop blaming people or circumstances. Responsibility is one of the clearest signs of inner strength. When a person chooses responsibility, they stop waiting for life to become fair before they begin to improve it. They stop giving their power away to other people's actions, to old mistakes, or to difficult circumstances. They begin to understand that while many things happen outside their control, their response remains their own. That understanding changes a person deeply. It creates maturity. It creates steadiness. It creates a kind of peace that does not depend on perfect conditions. Blaming is easy because it gives temporary relief. If the problem is always someone else's fault, then you do not have to face your own choices. You do not have to adjust your habits. You do not have to admit where you have been careless, passive, or unprepared. Blame can feel satisfying for a moment, but it keeps you stuck in the same place. A person who blames others is usually asking life to change without first changing themselves. That almost never works for long. Real growth begins when you stop asking who caused the problem and start asking what you can do now. Choosing responsibility does not mean denying pain. It does not mean pretending that other people never hurt you or that circumstances are never difficult. Life can be unfair. People can disappoint you. Plans can break. Timing can be bad. None of that needs to be denied. But once you have faced reality honestly, the next question matters most. What now? That question is powerful because it moves you from helplessness to action. It reminds you that even when you did not choose the situation, you can still choose your next step. There is something deeply freeing about this way of thinking. When you stop blaming, you stop living like a victim of everything around you. You begin to see yourself as a participant in your own life. That does not mean every outcome is under your control. It means your effort, your mindset, your habits, and your decisions are still available to you. Those things matter more than many people realize. A person who handles responsibility well becomes harder to discourage because their strength comes from within rather than from external approval. One of the first places responsibility must be practiced is in your daily choices. It is easy to say the system is broken, the schedule is impossible, the environment is not supportive, or the timing is bad. Sometimes those things may be true. But if you keep living only by the limits around you, you will never discover how much can still be built from where you stand. Responsible people work with reality. They do not waste all their energy wishing reality were different. They ask what part of the situation they can shape and then begin there. This mindset can transform even small parts of your day. If your room is messy, blame will only keep you irritated. Responsibility says, clean one section now. If your schedule is crowded, blame will only create frustration. Responsibility says, look for 1 hour you can protect. If your habits have weakened, blame will only keep you ashamed. Responsibility says, begin again with one simple act. This kind of thinking is practical because it refuses to stay trapped in complaint. A responsible person also understands that honesty is necessary. It is not enough to say that other people failed you if you also know you ignored warning signs. It is not enough to say you are behind if you have repeatedly postponed the work. It is not enough to say your situation is difficult if you have not taken the steps available to improve it. Honest reflection is not about self-attack. It is about removing excuses that hide the truth. When you see the truth clearly, you can begin to rebuild with better choices. Taking responsibility means that you stop using your history as a permanent explanation for your present behavior. Your past may have influenced you. It may have shaped your habits and made certain things harder. That is real, but it does not have to rule your future. Many people remain trapped because they keep rehearsing the story of what was done to them or what was missing in their life. The story may contain pain, but if it becomes the main reason you do not move forward, then it starts controlling your identity. Responsibility says the past happened, but it does not get to make all the decisions now. There is strength in accepting that some of the burden of change belongs to you. This is not a heavy truth meant to crush you. It is a hopeful truth because it means your next improvement is still possible. If your life depends entirely on other people changing first, you will remain waiting. But if your progress begins with your own actions, you can start today. You do not have to wait for someone to apologize before you improve. You do not have to wait for perfect support before you begin. You do not have to wait for better weather, better luck, or better timing. You can start with responsibility and move from there. A useful practice is to remove blame from your language. Instead of saying why something cannot be done, ask what part of it you can handle. Instead of saying your situation made you this way, ask what you are doing now to stay that way. Instead of saying no one helped you, ask who you can learn from and how you can help yourself. This is not cold thinking, it is clear thinking. It moves you out of complaint and into construction. The moment you choose responsibility, you begin to reclaim your energy. Blame drains energy because it keeps attention focused on what you cannot control. Responsibility restores energy because it points toward action. Even a small action can bring a surprising amount of relief. Making one call, sending one message, organizing one task, apologizing where needed, or starting one needed habit can change the tone of the whole day. That is because responsibility creates motion, and motion is often what breaks the pressure of stuck thinking. There is also dignity in responsibility. A responsible person carries themselves differently. They are less likely to speak in a defeated way. They are less likely to exaggerate their limits. They are less likely to expect rescue. They understand that life is serious and that growth requires effort. This does not make them harsh. It makes them dependable. People trust those who do not constantly shift fault onto others. They trust those who can face hard realities without collapsing into excuses. You may sometimes discover that blaming was a shield you used because the truth felt uncomfortable. That is human, but comfort is not always your friend. Growth often begins where comfort ends. When you admit your part honestly, you may feel exposed at first, but that honesty gives you power. It removes confusion. It shows you where to improve. It gives you a place to begin. A clear fault is easier to correct than a hidden one. Responsibility also improves relationships. When people know you are willing to own your part, conversation becomes more honest, trust becomes easier to build, conflict becomes less destructive. You no longer need to defend your ego at every turn. You become someone who can listen, adjust, and respond wisely. This creates peace in a way that blame never can. Blame may win arguments, but responsibility builds understanding. One of the strongest habits you can develop is asking yourself, what is mine to handle? That question keeps you focused. It stops you from wasting energy on things that belong to other people. It also reminds you that your life is shaped by your own stewardship, your time, your words, your standards, your reactions, your effort. These are yours to manage. When you manage them well, your life becomes more stable. A person who takes responsibility learns to tolerate discomfort without surrendering control. They can say, this is hard, but I will still act. They can say, this is not ideal, but I still have a choice. They can say, I do not like this, but I will deal with what is in front of me. That kind of inner language builds resilience and maturity. It keeps you from becoming dependent on excuses to feel okay. You do not need a perfect history to become responsible today. You do not need flawless conditions. You do not need everyone to agree with you. You only need the willingness to stop handing your power away. Begin by telling the truth about your situation without drama. Then identify the next useful step. Then take it. That simple pattern can change the direction of a life. The world will always offer reasons to blame. There will always be people who act unfairly. There will always be circumstances that feel inconvenient. But your future will be shaped not by those realities alone, but by how you respond to them. Responsibility is the response that strengthens you. It turns pain into learning. It turns pressure into movement. It turns confusion into action. When you choose responsibility, you stop waiting for someone else to carry the weight of your life. You stand up inside your own story. You begin to build with what you have. You stop asking who failed you and start asking how you can move forward with honesty and strength. That choice is not small. It is one of the clearest signs that you are becoming the kind of person who can be trusted with a better future. Chapter 8. Improve daily. By doing hard things without delay. The habit of doing hard things without delay can change the shape of your entire life. Many people know what needs to be done, yet they stay trapped in the space between awareness and action. They feel the weight of the task, notice the discomfort it brings, and then try to reduce that discomfort by waiting. The problem is that waiting rarely makes hard things easier. It usually makes them heavier. What was small grows larger in the mind. What was simple becomes stressful. What was one clear responsibility turns into a source of mental pressure that follows you through the day. A strong life is often built by people who do not give delay too much power. They understand that the longer they avoid a difficult task, the more energy it takes from them. They also understand something deeper. The mind becomes sharper when it learns to move toward difficulty instead of away from it. This is not about enjoying pain or forcing yourself into misery. It is about training your character to act with courage at the moment action is needed. That kind of habit changes a person from the inside out. Hard things usually carry two kinds of resistance. First, there is the task itself. It may be difficult, uncomfortable, boring, emotional, or demanding. Second, there is the inner resistance that says the task can wait. That second force is often more dangerous than the first because it sounds reasonable. It tells you there is still time. It tells you you will handle it later when the mood is better. It tells you the pressure is not urgent yet. If you believe that voice too often, your life fills with unfinished duties and quiet regret. But if you answer quickly, you protect your peace. One of the clearest signs of maturity is the willingness to face difficulty early. A hard conversation handled today is often easier than the same conversation avoided for a week. A complex assignment started now is usually less stressful than one left until the last moment. A repair made promptly is often cheaper, simpler, and more manageable than a repair delayed. The same pattern appears in personal growth. The sooner you confront what is uncomfortable, the sooner you return to balance. Delay does not remove the burden. It usually only shifts it into the future with added pressure. People often wait because they want to feel ready. They want the fear to settle. They want energy to rise. They want a clearer mind and a better moment. Yet readiness is not always a feeling. Sometimes readiness is a decision. You decide to begin before the comfort appears. You decide to move before the excitement arrives. You decide to do the difficult thing because that is the right thing, not because it feels pleasant. This is how strength is built in ordinary life. Not through grand speeches, but through immediate action. There is a quiet dignity in doing what must be done right away. It creates a cleaner mind. It reduces the pile of mental clutter that comes from postponement. It gives you a steadier heartbeat because your responsibilities are no longer hanging over you. It also changes how you see yourself. Every time you move quickly toward a hard task, you teach yourself that discomfort is not a wall. It is a condition you can work through. That lesson is worth more than temporary comfort. You can begin this practice with very small moments. If a message needs a serious reply, answer it instead of letting it sit. If a room needs attention, clean the part that is most distracting first. If your body needs movement, stand up and start. If a conversation has been weighing on you, do not keep rehearsing it in your head for another day. If a decision needs to be made, gather the facts and make the best choice available. Hard things often become easier the moment you stop circling them. It helps to remember that action has a strange power over fear. Fear grows in silence and in delay. It loses some of its strength when you meet it with movement. A person who always avoids discomfort becomes smaller inside. A person who acts anyway becomes steadier. The first person keeps asking how to escape the pressure. The second person asks how to work through it. That second question is the one that leads to real progress. Doing hard things without delay also builds trust in yourself. Trust is not built by saying you are capable. It is built by proving it through repeated behavior. When you handle the uncomfortable thing now, you send yourself a message that you are not weak in the face of pressure. When you do it again and again, that message sinks in. Eventually, your inner voice becomes less doubtful. You know from experience that you can begin without waiting for perfect conditions. You know that you can stay steady when the task feels unpleasant. That kind of self-trust changes your whole approach to life. The people who accomplish meaningful things are not always the ones who feel the best. They are often the ones who understand how to move when the moment requires it. They do not build their life around the desire to avoid effort. They build their life around what matters. That means they are willing to have some uncomfortable mornings, some awkward conversations, some long work sessions, and some moments where pride has to step aside. They know that short-term discomfort can be the price of long-term strength. One reason delay is so harmful is because it weakens your sense of urgency. Important things begin to feel ordinary. Ordinary things begin to feel optional. Optional things get ignored. Then the mind becomes trained to tolerate unfinished business. That pattern can spread into every part of life. But when you act at once, you protect the meaning of the task. You tell yourself that what matters deserves attention now. That is a powerful way to live because it keeps your standards alive. A useful question to ask yourself is simple. What hard thing am I trying to postpone right now? Be honest. It may be a phone call, a study session, a decision, a repair, an apology, a workout, a financial task, or a personal habit you know needs attention. Once you identify it, do not build a dramatic story around it. Reduce the task to the first step and begin. The first step is often the real obstacle. Once you move, the rest usually becomes easier. This kind of habit also strengthens your character because it teaches you to respect time. Time is one of the few things you can never recover. Every delay spends it without creating value. Every prompt action protects it. A person who works quickly on the right things develops a cleaner relationship with time. They stop treating every difficult responsibility as if it can safely wait forever. They understand that the moment has value. They act while the moment is still alive. There will still be days when the hard thing feels larger than your strength. On those days, do not aim for perfection. Aim for movement. One call, one page, one decision, one honest step. That is enough to break the spell of delay. Once the body moves and the mind sees progress, resistance often loosens. You do not need to solve the whole future before beginning. You only need to honor the next right action. Over time, this practice changes more than your output. It changes your inner climate. You become less fragile when pressure appears. You become less dramatic about discomfort. You become less likely to waste hours preparing to do what could have been handled sooner. Your mind becomes simpler, your days become cleaner, and your sense of control becomes stronger. That is the reward of meeting hard things directly. A life of growth is not built by avoiding difficulty. It is built by meeting difficulty before it hardens into burden. The habit of immediate action is one of the most practical forms of self-mastery because it takes away the power of hesitation. It teaches you to act while energy is still available. It teaches you to value progress over delay. It teaches you that courage is not reserved for rare moments. It can be practiced in ordinary tasks every single day. When you learn to do hard things without delay, you stop living at the mercy of avoidance. You become someone who responds with strength when life asks for it. That strength will help you finish more work, carry less regret, and move through your days with greater peace. More importantly, it will help you become the kind of person who trusts action more than fear. And once that trust is established, daily improvement stops being a wish and becomes a way of life. Chapter 9. Protect your peace by setting clear personal boundaries. Peace is one of the most valuable things a person can possess. It allows you to think clearly, make wise decisions, maintain healthy relationships, and move through life with stability. Yet many people unknowingly give away their peace because they never established clear personal boundaries. They allow every demand, every opinion, every interruption, and every unnecessary conflict to enter their lives without limits. Over time, they become exhausted, frustrated, and emotionally drained. Not because they are weak, but because they have not learned how to protect what matters. A boundary is not a wall that shuts people out. It is a line that protects what is important. It helps you decide what you will allow and what you will not allow into your life. It helps you preserve your time, your energy, your focus, and your emotional well-being. Without boundaries, other people often decide how your days are spent. With boundaries, you begin making those decisions yourself. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear disappointing others. They worry that saying no will make them appear selfish, rude, or uncaring. As a result, they agree to things they do not want to do. They take on responsibilities they cannot manage. they tolerate behavior that damages their peace. Then they wonder why they feel overwhelmed. The truth is that protecting your peace is not selfish. It is responsible. You cannot give your best to your family, your work, your goals, or your personal growth if your energy is constantly being depleted by unnecessary demands. A person who never protects their own well-being eventually reaches a point where exhaustion begins affecting every area of life. One of the most important lessons you can learn is that not every request deserves a yes. Every time you say yes to something, you are saying no to something else. You are giving away time, attention, energy, or focus that could have been used elsewhere. This does not mean refusing to help people. It means being thoughtful about where your resources go. Wise people understand that their time is limited. They know they cannot be available for everything and everyone all the time. They recognize that protecting certain parts of their day allows them to remain effective in the long term. They choose their commitments carefully rather than agreeing automatically. A clear boundary begins with clarity inside yourself. You must know what matters most. What are your priorities? What values guide your decisions? What activities strengthen your life? What situations repeatedly create unnecessary stress? These questions help you identify where boundaries are needed. Many people live without asking themselves these questions. They simply react to whatever appears in front of them. One request follows another. One distraction replaces the next. One obligation pushes aside something important. Eventually, they find themselves living according to everyone else's priorities instead of their own. Protecting your peace requires awareness. Pay attention to the situations that leave you feeling drained. Notice which interactions repeatedly create tension. Observe where your energy disappears. These patterns reveal where stronger boundaries may be necessary. Sometimes boundaries involve your schedule. You may need uninterrupted time to work, study, rest, or think. Constant interruptions can destroy focus and create frustration. A person who values peace understands the importance of protecting certain periods of the day. They do not allow every notification, message, or request to dictate their attention. Sometimes boundaries involve relationships. Not everyone who enters your life deserves unlimited access to your time and emotions. Some people consistently bring negativity, drama, criticism, or chaos. They create problems wherever they go. They expect others to carry burdens they refuse to address themselves. You cannot always avoid difficult people completely, but you can control how much influence they have over your life. You can decide how much time you spend around them. You can choose which conversations you participate in. You can refuse to become involved in unnecessary conflicts. These choices help preserve emotional stability. One mistake many people make is believing that boundaries require anger. They imagine that setting limits means becoming aggressive or confrontational. Healthy boundaries do not require hostility. They require clarity and consistency. A calm statement delivered with confidence is often enough. You can be respectful while remaining firm. You can decline a request without feeling guilty. You can disagree without becoming disrespectful. You can protect your needs without attacking someone else's. People often respect clear boundaries more than unclear ones. Confusion creates frustration. Consistency creates understanding. When others know where you stand, relationships often become healthier because expectations are more realistic. Another important area where boundaries matter is information. Modern life makes it easy to consume endless amounts of news, opinions, arguments, and distractions. Many people spend hours every day absorbing information that increases anxiety without improving their lives. Protecting your peace sometimes means limiting what enters your mind. Not every debate requires your attention. Not every headline deserves your emotional energy. Not every opinion needs a response. Learning when to disengage can be one of the healthiest decisions you make. A peaceful mind requires space. Constant stimulation leaves little room for thoughtful reflection. If you fill every quiet moment with noise, your mind never gets the opportunity to recover. Boundaries around technology, media, and digital distractions can dramatically improve mental clarity. There is also a connection between boundaries and self-respect. When you repeatedly allow behavior that violates your values, your sense of self-worth often suffers. Deep down, you know you are accepting something that should not be accepted. Over time, this creates internal tension. Self-respect grows when your actions align with your values. If honesty matters, protect it. If kindness matters, practice it. If personal growth matters, create space for it. Boundaries help you defend the things you claim are important. Some people hesitate to establish limits because they fear conflict. They hope that if they stay silent, problems will disappear on their own. Unfortunately, unresolved issues often grow larger over time. Small frustrations become larger resentments. Minor problems become major sources of stress. Airing concerns early is usually healthier than allowing them to accumulate. Clear communication prevents many unnecessary misunderstandings. Speaking honestly may feel uncomfortable at first, but prolonged frustration often creates far greater discomfort later. Peace should not be confused with avoiding every challenge. A peaceful life is not a life without responsibilities or difficult conversations. Peace comes from knowing that you are handling life in a way that aligns with your values. It comes from having order where possible. It comes from refusing to allow unnecessary chaos to dominate your attention. One of the strongest boundaries you can establish is around your personal growth. Protect the habits that improve your life. Guard the activities that strengthen your mind. Defend the routines that support your health. Too many people sacrifice these important practices whenever something else demands attention. Growth requires consistency. Consistency requires protection. If every outside demand automatically takes priority, personal development gets pushed aside repeatedly. Eventually, years pass and little progress has been made. There will always be more requests, more distractions, more invitations, and more opportunities to drift away from your priorities. Boundaries help you stay connected to what matters most. You may discover that some people react negatively when you begin establishing limits. This is normal. People become accustomed to certain patterns. When those patterns change, adjustment takes time. Some individuals may resist because they benefited from your lack of boundaries. Do not allow temporary discomfort to convince you that healthy limits are wrong. If your boundaries are reasonable, respectful, and aligned with your values, maintain them consistently. Over time, people usually learn what is acceptable and what is not. Peace is not something you accidentally find. It is something you intentionally protect. It requires awareness, wisdom, courage, and discipline. It requires making choices that support your well-being, even when those choices are not always easy. Every day presents opportunities to protect or surrender your peace. You can choose where your attention goes. You can choose which conversations deserve your energy. You can choose which commitments deserve your time. You can choose which influences deserve access to your mind. The quality of your life is deeply connected to these choices. A person without boundaries often feels pulled in every direction. A person with healthy boundaries moves with greater purpose. They are not controlled by every demand. They are not shaken by every opinion. They are not distracted by every opportunity for drama. Instead, they remain focused on what truly matters. They preserve their energy for meaningful goals. They create room for reflection. They build stronger relationships through honest communication. They develop a deeper sense of calm because their life is no longer open to every unnecessary disturbance. Protecting your peace does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means engaging with the world wisely. It means understanding that your attention is valuable, your time is valuable, your energy is valuable, your mental well-being is valuable. Treat those things with care. The stronger your boundaries become, the stronger your peace becomes. The stronger your peace becomes, the clearer your thinking becomes. The clearer your thinking becomes, the better your decisions become. And when better decisions guide your life consistently, you create a future built on stability, purpose, and inner strength rather than stress, confusion, and unnecessary struggle. Chapter 10. Commit fully to growth and refuse to quit. Growth asks for more than interest. It asks for commitment. Many people begin with energy, but only a few continue when progress becomes slow, when results are delayed, and when the first excitement fades. That is where real transformation begins. Commitment is the decision to keep moving even after the feeling changes. It is the quiet strength that says your future matters enough to deserve steady effort. A person who commits fully to growth is no longer living by temporary moods. They are living by purpose. There will always be reasons to stop. The work may feel harder than expected. The results may arrive slowly. Other people may not understand your effort. Some days your mind may question whether change is worth it. In those moments, quitting can look attractive because it promises relief. It says you can escape the pressure if you simply let go. But that relief is temporary. The cost is often much greater later. When you quit on your growth, you do not only lose progress, you weaken your trust in yourself. The person who refuses to quit learns something valuable. They learn that discomfort is not proof of failure. They learn that slow progress is still progress. They learn that one difficult season does not define the whole path. This way of thinking gives strength that does not depend on perfect conditions. It creates a deeper kind of confidence, one built from experience rather than wishful thinking. You begin to see that you can remain steady when life becomes demanding. That realization changes how you carry yourself. To commit fully to growth, you must first accept that becoming better takes time. The mind often wants quick results because quick results feel reassuring. But meaningful change is usually built through repetition, patience, and correction. You do not become wiser in one day. You do not build strong habits in 1 week. You do not transform your character through one powerful moment alone. Growth comes from daily return. It comes from the choice to begin again, to stay honest, and to keep working on what matters. This means you must stop treating your progress as a fragile thing that can only survive perfect conditions. Growth is stronger than that. It can survive bad days. It can survive mistakes. It can survive low energy and discouraging feedback. What it cannot survive is constant surrender. Every time you give up too quickly, you teach yourself to fear discomfort more than you value improvement. Every time you continue anyway, you teach yourself that strength is possible. One of the most important parts of refusing to quit is learning to stay present during difficult moments. Many people mentally leave long before they physically stop. They do the work while already imagining failure. They face a challenge while already telling themselves that they are not good enough. They continue a task while expecting disappointment. This kind of divided attention drains energy. A committed person stays with the moment. They do not add unnecessary drama to the effort. They simply do the next useful thing. You do not have to win every battle at once. You only have to remain in the fight long enough to learn, adjust, and continue. Growth is often messy before it becomes clear. Sometimes you improve, then slip. Sometimes you understand something, then forget it, then remember it again through experience. That is normal. Progress is not always a straight line. What matters is that you keep returning. The return matters more than the stumble. Refusing to quit also means being honest about why you feel like stopping. Sometimes you are truly exhausted and need rest. Sometimes you are frustrated because you expected too much too quickly. Sometimes you are discouraged because the work is harder than you thought. Sometimes you are afraid of being seen trying. Knowing the real reason matters because not every urge to quit should be treated the same way. Rest may be needed. Adjustment may be needed. Patience may be needed. But permanent surrender is different. A wise person learns the difference. Growth requires a deep respect for the process. That respect shows itself when you keep learning after mistakes, when you keep practicing after weak performances, and when you keep showing up even when nobody praises your effort. The process is where character is formed. It is where discipline becomes real. It is where self-respect grows. If you only care about the outcome, you may give up too easily when the outcome is delayed. If you also care about who you are becoming, you will understand why the daily effort matters. A person committed to growth does not need every day to feel inspiring. They know some days will be ordinary. They know some days will feel repetitive. They know some days will test their patience more than their strength, but they also know that ordinary days are part of a meaningful life. The work done on quiet days often carries the greatest value because that is where habits are built. The people who rise later are usually the ones who stayed consistent when no one was paying attention. You must also learn how to speak to yourself during difficult seasons. If your inner voice becomes harsh and hopeless, quitting will seem easier. But if your inner voice becomes steady and honest, you will find more strength to continue. Speak to yourself with truth, not false comfort and not cruel judgment. Say what is real. Say the task is hard but possible. Say the result is not finished yet. Say you are tired but still capable of one more step. That kind of language protects your direction. The decision to refuse quitting is not always loud. Sometimes it is simply another day of showing up. Another hour of work. Another attempt after failure. Another honest effort after disappointment. Another morning where you choose growth over comfort. These choices may not look dramatic, but they are powerful. They create a life that is built, not imagined. They create trust between your mind and your actions. They make your future less dependent on luck and more dependent on who you decide to be. There may be moments when your progress is slow enough that you question whether anything is changing. In those moments, remember that growth is often happening beneath the surface, before it becomes visible. Roots grow before the tree shows height. Strength develops before it looks impressive. Confidence builds before it becomes obvious. Do not mistake quiet development for absence of change. Continue working. Continue learning. Continue improving. The results often become clear later than you expect. Refusing to quit also means protecting your standards. Do not lower them simply because the road is long. Do not say that because the work is hard, excellence no longer matters. Do not allow temporary frustration to excuse careless living. Growth is not only about moving forward, it is also about moving forward with integrity. Keep your habits clean. Keep your effort honest. Keep your mind focused on what truly matters. When you commit fully to growth, you stop living like a visitor in your own life. You become invested. You become active. You become willing to do what development asks of you. That willingness is rare, and that is why it is powerful. Most people admire change from a distance. Fewer people stay with the work long enough to become different. You do not have to be among the ones who admire and delay. You can be among the ones who decide and continue. There will always be a point where quitting seems easier than staying. That moment is a test. It asks whether your desire for comfort is stronger than your desire for growth. It asks whether your future matters enough to keep going. It asks whether you are willing to honor the promises you made to yourself. Answer that moment with courage. Answer it with action. Answer it by staying. A life of meaning is rarely built by people who gave up too soon. It is built by people who kept going after setbacks, who learned from failure, who remained steady through uncertainty, and who trusted the value of slow progress. That kind of person does not wait for motivation to rescue them. They move with purpose. They keep climbing. They keep learning. They keep returning to the work, commit fully to growth, and the path begins to change. Refuse to quit, and your character becomes stronger than your fear. Stay faithful to the process, and your life will start to reflect a deeper kind of strength. Not the strength of a perfect record, but the strength of a person who would not give up on becoming better. That is the kind of strength that lasts.